What is a Renaissance fair? A Renaissance fair, or Ren Fair as it is sometimes called, is part historical reenactment, part performance art, and part interactive theater. The characters at a Renaissance fair dress in costuming for their time period, usually anywhere from the 1200s to the 1500s. As one walks into the Ren Fair, one is transported back in time, encountering various characters along the journey that have been painstakingly developed by the actor portraying them and the directors overseeing them. This video will show you, the actor, how to develop a realistic Ren Fair character. So join the directors of the Knights of Gore in this endeavor and develop your character.
Actor, know thyself. My name is Jeffrey Evans, and I'm from the Brotherhood Knights of Gore and the artistic director. One never knows what may come up when interacting in character at a Renaissance fair. This means you have to create a character that you can know inside and out. That way you can improvise any response. First, create the basic information. Step 1, where are you from? Deciding this can influence all the other attributes of your character. Decide at least on a country and status. Often status influences other attributes as well. For example, an English knight would have different attributes from a Scottish blacksmith. Step 2, what is your name? Choose an appropriate name for your character based on the information from step 1. Step 3, why are you here? Are you visiting? Do you live here? Create details around the answers to those questions. Step 4, what is your status or class? Are you nobility, tradesperson, or a mere peasant? These answers will dictate the rest of the development of your character, as well as your interactions with other characters and the public. Now you have a basic character outline, and you can continue.
Now that you've established the basics of your character, it's time to start delving in to what our characters look like and what their costumes can tell about them. Hi, I'm Frank Perry, Fight Director for the Brotherhood Knights of Gore. And your character's costuming can either make or break a first impression of your character. From the good guy, white hat, to the bad guy, black hat, to the knight in shining armor, every bit about your character's look can tell you a little bit about the character. Perhaps the best way to demonstrate this is to look at an actor performing in multiple roles and multiple characters to see what his costume can tell about the character itself. But who to use for that actor? Well, since I'm here, how about me? Who you see before you is a character known as the maniacal Jack Kruger. Although not a Renaissance fair or historical character, Jack Kruger's costume clearly defines the character. He's an insane man who wears straitjackets and other gothic attire to emphasize his insanity. This is Desmond McGregor, a medieval merchant playboy whose romanticism is emphasized by his ruffles and the roses he sells at his side. This is Ansel, a member of the French court set in a show during the Elizabethan era. Note his nobility by the red velvet jerkin that members of the peasantry would not be able to afford. Here we see Yuri Kozlov, a Russian intellect. Here we begin to see signs of nobility as displayed by the colors shown on his tabard. And here we see Sir Tristan, a knight of the Round Table, sporting finely made armor and weaponry and heraldry, all signs of his affluent upbringing. In contrast to the other three Renaissance fair characters, as you can see, I'm dressed significantly different than those characters. Right now, I'm dressed as a character named Altan Jarrah, who was an Ottoman Turk from the desert. The other characters were upper-class European or Russian nobility. As you saw, their look comprised of basic armor, a tabard, a crest to signify their nobility. In other words, they followed a very specific linear stereotype of European or Russian nobility. On the other hand, my character, being from the desert, has clothing and armor very specific to people who are of Arabic, Muslim, or desert descent. For example, armor that I'm wearing is not a complete suit of armor. You may see other knights who have complete suits of armor on. My character is from the desert, so logically, I would not be in a complete suit of armor, because I would get very, very hot and most likely dehydrate. And then after that, no one can fight. I'm wearing a shamag, or turban, complete with an igal, which is a traditional Saudi Arabian and Turkish headdress. Sword that I have is called the kopesh. It's actually an Egyptian blade, but you see many other Middle Eastern characters use a weapon called the scimitar, shamshir, or talbars. All curved weapons that were meant to be used to hack and slash off of horseback. You saw with other characters, they had traditional, more European longswords. So as you can see, a character's costume can represent the region they come from, and vice versa. So now that you've learned about weapons, armor, and costuming, I hope that now you can go about and create your own character. If not, here are some other links you may find useful.
Greetings, my lords and ladies. My name is Olivia Giroux. I am one of the actors and fighters of the Brotherhood Knights of Gore, and I am also what the group would call their stage coach. And I'm here today to talk to you all about speaking in a Renaissance fair. Now, speaking itself, if you haven't noticed, the art of conversation is very much lost in our society. These days we have things like Facebook and text messaging and IMs and our cell phones and things like that. All of this technology, I've noticed in my experience, has coalesced in our lives so greatly that a lot of people actually forget how to have a proper conversation. Something as simple as making eye contact has become almost intimidating for a lot of people. But rather than go off in that direction, like I said, I'm here today to talk about what it's like to speak at a Renaissance fair, between talking to patrons and talking to other actors. One thing in particular that a patron might notice when they go to a Renaissance fair is the type of accent that a particular actor is using. With series like Game of Thrones, with TV shows, or movies I should say, like Lord of the Rings, and things like that, most of these actors, you will notice, talk in genuine British accents. And therefore, a lot of patrons will also expect a British accent. So it's a very safe bet for an actor just starting out at a Renaissance fair and wants to make a good impression. There are two types of accents that you can do in terms of British acting. That is the very recognizable, refined, polished, upper-class British accent. It's not too terribly difficult to do, but there are some things that you want to keep in mind. First of all, when you feel yourself talking in that accent, notice that your voice is hitting the roof of your mouth before it comes tumbling out. Make sure your voice is directed to the roof of your mouth before you say whatever it is you have to say. Also, notice how much I'm dropping my jaw, almost emphasizing it. If you drop your jaw, It will emphasize the vowels and elongate them and give it that very smooth, silky feel that you normally hear on BBC and things like that. Also make sure that your consonants are very clearly pronounced. Be careful though that you remember to drop your R's when they appear at the end of words, like clear, for instance, or rare. You notice that the R is dropped. In addition, when you're talking in this particular accent, don't be afraid to speak a little slower than you would normally. Not only will people be able to understand you better, but remember that you are of the noble class, and outsiders and other lowly serfs should be privileged, nay honored, to hear you speak such divine words. Aside from that though, you do have a more lower class accent, what you might call a Cockney accent. Now with this one, when you hear yourself talking, notice that the sound is more resonating in your nose, right here, than it is hitting the roof of your mouth before it comes tumbling out into your words. Also, if you feel the shape that your mouth is making, feels like you're smiling a little bit. You might think of those poor Dickensian street urchins with all their teeth missing and things like that, but always wanting to smile for the goodly gentles who are passing by. So remember to smile a little bit when you do that Cockney accent. Make sure though that your vowels are also very clearly elongated and also the consonants are pronounced. To add a special spice though to this Cockney accent, you might even go as far as dropping your H's when they begin words. So the word happy would be appy, or I'm going home, I'm going home. Just adds that little spice to it. Be careful though also to slow down the speech so people are sure to understand what you're saying. So, if you can secure those things in your bag of tricks, if you're a first-time actor at a Renaissance fair or first-time patron at a Renaissance fair, you will know exactly how to play the game.
The way your character moves and the space he or she takes up is the last vital part of creating the basics of your character. Hi, I'm James Irving, improvisational director for the Knights of Gore. The primary method used by successful Renaissance fair directors is known as viewpoints. This is a physical approach to improvisational theater and interactive theater. Sometimes actors understand the character and the story, but find themselves stuck in graceless, pointless, and dull stage movement. They need help channeling their instincts so their insight and vitality can become visible to other actors and the audience. Through physical improvisation, the viewpoints train the actor to act with the whole body, creating eloquent visual images. The 6 physical viewpoints are space, shape, time, emotion, movement, and story. Shape. Now with shape, this means the contour or outline of our bodies in space. The shape of the body itself, and in relation to other bodies or in relation to the architecture of the space around you, like angles, arches, all stationary or in motion. What you need to think about on this one is, does your character take up a little bit of space or a lot of space? Now that's shape. The next viewpoint, number 3 or number 2 for this lesson anyway, is time. Now the viewpoint of time has a few aspects. The first aspect is tempo. How fast or slow does your character move? In other words, is he or she slow and deliberate with the movement? Or are you just everywhere all at once? I think of the fast movements like a cat. You know how your cat kind of sits there and moves real slowly until he or she's got to be over there now. You have to make a decision which way your character is going to be, unless you're playing a cat. Now, the next is duration. How long does your character maintain a particular movement, tempo, gesture, stance, etc. before it changes? Is he going to stand here the whole time and talk to you like this and just stay in this position? Or is he going to move around as he talks or does whatever he's doing? Now, third, what is the kinesthetic response? This is a spontaneous reaction to emotion that occurs outside of oneself, an instinctive response to external stimuli, such as how does your character react to the other characters around him or her? And what is your character's reaction to the people above or below them in stature? Obviously, if you're playing a peasant character, you're going to react differently when the queen walks by than when somebody of equal stature. This is especially important when you're playing somebody in the middle, like a lord or a knight, because the queen, king, the royalty is still above you, and the peasantry is below you. So obviously you're going to react differently to those above you. You're going to bow, curtsy, whatever, and the people below you may acknowledge, or, depending on what kind of attitude your character has, you may not. Now, the final aspect of tempo is repetition. Does your character repeat a movement or gesture done with his or her own body? Or do you repeat a movement or gesture of somebody outside of your body? For example, the character that I am currently playing at a Ren fair, the Renaissance fair that I'm at is a Robin Hood themed fair. And I'm supposed to be a merry man, and my character is very, shall we say, sarcastic. So whenever Prince John walks by, he does a big flourishing impersonation of him to make people laugh. So that's copying another's gesture. Now, the next viewpoint that we need to talk about is emotion. Now, when we say emotion, we mean the psychological or narrative content as ascribed to movement. In other words, does your character portray a specific emotion? Do other emotions get portrayed during scenes or interactions? So is your character naturally sad? Or is your character always upbeat and happy and, it reflects in the movements. It reflects in everything that you do. Now, the final and perhaps one of the more important viewpoints is movement. Now, this is all about the movement of your body and the different ways that you move. For example, does your character move in a jerky fashion or a smooth, flowing fashion? Does he or she move slowly or very quickly, as we talked about before? This also applies to the different parts of your body and their motion. Not just how you move through the space, but when you're gesturing, are you going to gesture really fast, like, oh my God, I got to do this? Or, is it slow and deliberate? You notice it affects my voice too, the way that I'm gesturing. If I'm gesturing slow and deliberate, my voice changes to be slow and deliberate. If I'm gesturing fast, my voice speeds up. It's just natural. Now, all of these elements influence each other and work together. And they can cause a change in a different element. For example, the shape of your body can carry in a certain emotion with it as well. Something in the space in your environment may make a story out of what you're doing, etc. So the shape of my body, if I was sad or depressed, if I bring my body in like this, I'm now portraying sad or depressed. If I'm mad, my shape could get bigger. And as I talked about before, if my shape's bigger and I'm moving slowly, it leads everything else into it. It's often that a performer finds one of the elements comes naturally. So an actor portraying a character, you must first focus on the isolation of each separate viewpoint. As I said, before you integrate and work them all together, one might come naturally. If that one comes naturally and you work that, then it'll help you move on to the others. And now you have all the aspects of your basic character development. You can review the other lessons on this video and this one and start creating your character. If you follow everything that the 4 Knights of Gore directors have outlined here, you should have some pretty good character basics, and you can build on them from there. Good luck, and have fun at the Renaissance Fair.